It's Friday night, how I'm longing for this day.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Single Mother by Choice. My name is Martine, and today I'm going to share with you my first Q&A. I'm so excited to answer all of your questions. Let's get into it. So, let's see, way back, actually it's more than a few weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, I shared on my Instagram that I wanted to do a Q&A, and a lot of people, well, not a lot, but people, thank you for sharing. People shared their questions with me, and I'm happy to answer them here today. But first, if you're not subscribed to my Instagram, you can link down below. I tend to keep things a little bit more updated there because it's just easier. Sometimes it's just hard for me to get in front of a camera these days because I'm really tired or just like things are going on. So just make sure to go there to just stay up to date with what's going on. Let's get into it. I'm going to be looking down periodically because I have a computer here next to me since I use my phone to record. The first question, pause, time out. Before I even get into that, I'll just give people, especially if you're new to my channel, I'll just give you like a quick synopsis about me, and then I'll just get straight into the questions. So I am 38 years old, and last spring I decided to actively take steps to becoming a single mother by choice. It's something that I started planning years ago, but I didn't actively start till last spring. And then finally, it really didn't take very long, thank God, that's a blessing, but after 3 tries, I became pregnant. So in October, when I did my insemination, I became pregnant, and so here I am now, sharing my journey with everyone on YouTube. So now let's get into the question. First, from Phoenix X6304_SMC. So this person shared with me that they're also eventually going to start trying, but they wanted to know, apart from close friends and family, who did I tell about how I became pregnant and how did they react? So anyone who knows me in my real life knows that I'm an open book generally. I mean, there's certain things obviously that I keep to myself that only really close friends know, or even only I know about. But I'm not shy about sharing my journey and how I became pregnant. So I have actually, to test this out, because it's been a while since I posted this request for questions and stuff. I actually went to a professional development recently, and it's something that I have to go to monthly. I started it back in the fall, and so I've gotten to know these people a little bit, but not on a very personal level. So when I went to that professional development, I actually shared with the table that I was pregnant, because at that point I was already 3 months in, and I shared that I was pregnant, and they're like, oh my God, just congratulations, you and your partner kind of thing. And I was like, actually, I'm doing it on my own, and I had gotten inseminated, and And generally, I kind of tried to look at everyone and check out their faces. It was generally oh, congratulations, but kind of questions, lots of questions going on, I could tell in their minds. But one person, a gentleman at the table, was like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome, my friend is thinking about doing this, can she get in contact with you, can you answer questions, and I went back recently this week for my monthly meeting, and people were just really nice, and they weren't they didn't seem to be judging me for it. They're like, oh, how's it going? How are you feeling? And just, being nice and supportive, no judgment so far. But I do have to say that I work in the city, and I tend to socialize with people, or I'm around people that are exposed to a lot more stuff and are more open. It's kind of if you live in New York City, you've heard it all, you've seen it all. So I haven't been around people who are closed off to the world. And so I do live on Long Island, and I don't really socialize with people outside of my family on Long Island. I don't have really friends here. So I don't know how people here would react, because people on the island are generally more conservative. So, but generally now when I share with people, and I literally tell, like my whole school knows, I don't keep it a secret. And people are usually just curious, to be honest with you. So I guess curiosity is how people react, and often, you know, they have questions, which I'm happy to answer, and they are supportive, or at least they are kind and not projecting any kind of judgment onto me, which I appreciate. But again, I work in a pretty metropolitan area. Arlette from Chasing Joy, she asked, what's your biggest fear about being a single mother by choice? I guess the biggest fear is, like, if I do stay here on Long Island, and I do, like, once my child starts school, once I start to socialize them with other parents that are not, you know, single mothers by choice, or who are just come from a more traditional family, I do worry about, like, not me being judged, but my child being judged or being teased. That's something that really I think about a lot. And I don't want them to sort of like suffer the consequences of my choice to have a child on my own. So I really want to think about how I'm going to tell people here in the future how I got pregnant, and, you know, also just making sure that my child is comfortable with that idea. I feel like, you know, I'm obviously not going to keep it from them. I'm going to, like, let them know from the beginning, like, how much they were loved and wanted, and, like, this is how I chose to have a family. But, you know, I don't want them to feel shamed or embarrassed by other people. And that can happen when you're a kid, you know? So that's something I think about and I fear. And of course, I fear the world for my child, kind of like in a more vague way. Like, kind of, there's so many things, and I work with kids, and I see sort of the pitfalls of, like, being a teenager in today's world with so much technology and so much around them, so much access that they have to everything around them. It's just kind of like scary. And I feel like you really have to start talking earlier with your kids about just how to be safe in the world and be wise about the people they choose to hang around and the choices that they make, especially pertaining to, like, social media, the internet, and so on. So I fear that stuff. I fear everything. Like, once you become a mother, you think about everything and you overanalyze everything, and, like, I don't know. The kid's not even here yet, and I'm worried. Happy, but, like, worried, because you just want to protect them already, and they're not even out yet, you know, in the world, but you kind of want to keep them safe already. But generally, those are the things that I think about. So my.iui.journey asked, what did each IUI cost, including, like, sperm, ultrasound, blood test, etc. So I have health insurance, and I'm lucky enough, again, that I work for the city, and so my health insurance covered so much of the cost. I think the last time I went to my reproductive endocrinologist, I looked at the cost if you were paying out of pocket, and depending on the service you wanted, it could be like anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 and up per cycle, not including sperm and all that stuff, just for their services, just for their monitoring services. And I don't even think that includes, like, or maybe it included blood work. I didn't check into that specifically because, again, I have health insurance and that covers a lot. So for each visit that I went to the doctor, I paid $50, I believe. It was $50 because I had, every time I went to the doctor's office, it was $50 because I had blood work done, I had a sonogram done each time, and anything else. And then I just had, like, the general visit with the doctor and the nurse. And then as far as medication, again, because of insurance, I didn't have to pay for a lot of stuff out of pocket. So I'll try to find the receipts for that. But I remember once I started taking the IVF medications, that was under $200, but close to $200 out of my pocket. But the other medications before that were not expensive. It was just more of like a regular copay you would have. And then with the sperm, I used two different banks. So the first bank that I used, it was more expensive. So with shipping, I paid $800 per, I paid about $1,600 for the 2 vials of sperm. And for my third IUI, which helped me to conceive, I paid less. It was with so I had a shipping issue and whatever, I had to express ship my vial, so I ended up paying an additional like $200 for shipping or something to overnight it. So that actually ended up costing me say about $800 as well because of the extra shipping costs, but the vial itself was actually cheaper. It was like $600 and something, and that was through the Seattle Sperm Bank. You can look up, I'll link the Sperm Banks down below so you can look up the prices. But again, with my doctor, even with the insemination, when I had to go in, it was just the copay of like $50. I didn't have to pay anything additional. So total, I mean, I can try to add it up, but generally I had 3 doctor's visits per cycle, just about. The last one was a lot more. I had to go weekly at some point because they were monitoring the progress of the baby, at that point the embryo, just making sure everything was developing normally every week, so that they could, sign me out or just release me to my OB. So that at the end started to, add up $50 each visit, one visit per week. That added up, but definitely, cheaper than if I had not had insurance. It definitely made it affordable for me to start sooner as well. So the next question is from the same person, my.iui.journey. If you ever do find a male partner, would you consider him one day adopting your child? So when it comes to dating at this point, I don't think I would introduce my child to anybody unless it was completely serious and we were committed in a long-term relationship, because I feel like my child doesn't need to know like every single person that I meet or that I go out with. I think that's not healthy for them to see that necessarily. I think if I were to meet someone that I got to know for over a long period of time and it was a serious relationship and we were married, I don't think I would consider allowing anyone who I wasn't married to adopting my child. But if it was something good and healthy, a relationship that was good and healthy, and we were married, then I think I would take steps towards adoption. But I also might wait and let my child decide if that's something that they wanted too, because I'm kind of like a little bit about choice when it comes to that stuff. And if that's what my child, and at that point, if I were married, my husband wanted, then I think that we would go for it. But I definitely would want the input of my child once they were old enough. So how do you deal with those who doubt you can handle being a single mother? So no one has really doubted that I could do it so far, outside of like a couple of comments I've received on here, but I don't know those people. And to be honest, like, I don't know you. You don't know me, really. Don't care. But the people that I care about and the people that I know don't doubt that I can handle this. Especially, I'm really blessed to have so much support. The minute like people found out that I was pregnant, I've always had the support, but like especially it's been really nice. I don't know let me get my thoughts together. I don't know once the baby is here, obviously, like how much support will actually be there, but based on the people that I know and that I really care about, I think that they are reliable. And I think that just the emotional support obviously will be there. I think between my mom and my family and the few close friends that I have, I feel like emotionally I'll definitely have that support there. And no one so far in my life has doubted that I will be a good mom, or that I wouldn't be able to handle it. There are a couple of like people who are not family, but who have known my family for a long time. Like I know one person specifically who was like, oh, saying to my mom, I kind of overheard like, oh, so like you're basically going to be the one raising that child, kind of like saying, that I'm just having this kid and I'm going to go out every night, or like I'm just going to leave the baby with my mom every time. No. If you know me, I'm already kind of like sort of possessive and definitely like that is my kid, and I that is going to be my responsibility, and I choose that. Otherwise why I have a child? I might as well still be single. I didn't have a kid so that somebody else could raise that child. And in fact, that's why I'm taking time off from work, is so that I made the sacrifice of moving back home, etc., so I can be a good mom, and so I can, stay home as long as possible with my child. I'm not looking for anyone else to raise my kid. And in fact, like I'm already sort of having a hard time dealing with the fact that I have to sort of share that in a way, because I do live with my mom, and my family is a type of family that is like involved. At least, even if they're long distance, but they're like involved by phone and have opinions. I'm already like having to not fight, but kind of like defend what I want to do and how I want to raise my child. So, that person can just suck it. I kind of don't care what they have to say. Again, there are also people who like just don't know me. When people think they know you because, that person's been around my family for a long time, so they think they know me, but like you really just don't know me. And don't get me started. I'm okay, so I'm like a nice person, but like certain things push me, and I will say things that are not nice to defend my point. It's not mature, but that happens sometimes. What did you do to pass the time during the 2-week wait? So I talked about, making sure, in the past I've talked about the 2-week wait and just making sure that you stay busy, whatever that means for you. So for me, it meant like going out for lunch or dinner with my friends, making sure that my schedule was somewhat occupied and busy. Work definitely helped keep my mind off things a little bit during the day. But, it's all about also just sharing your feelings and your fears, but definitely trying to just keep things light and friendly, because you want to stay relaxed as possible. And I think, honestly, that kind of helped me with the third one. First of all, I didn't even think that this last cycle that actually worked would work. So I think that also just relaxed me a lot, because I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to live my life. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I just really didn't expect it. And I didn't stress myself out. But the first time, you can't help but worry and think about it and Google every little thing. That's what I learned. Like with each cycle, it just got easier to get through the 2-week wait. Now, I don't know if I had been doing this longer, for a longer period of time, if that might have changed, but I definitely noticed from the first to the third, I was just way more relaxed each time. So maybe because my expectations were low, I don't know. But anyway, the next question comes from Zabel 0U. I think I said that right. I don't know. So this person had to ask, what are your tips and things you wish you had known starting out in your single mother by choice journey? So honestly, tips, definitely first, before you even actively start, I really suggest having a strong support system around you, because it is an emotional process, and it is something that, you need people around you that are going to understand you, even if they don't quite understand what you're going through because they haven't been through it. But you just need people that like are caring and loving and will let you like cry or laugh or just bitch about the situation without judgment. So just making sure that you have a small group of people that you trust around you. Now, for me, I basically told the entire world right away because that's who I am. And but I did have my like small group of people, including, you know, my mom and some friends, to just keep me sort of sane through the process and who were like just genuinely interested in what was happening and like how I was doing. I think that's my biggest tip, because some days are just really hard and it is somewhat of a lonely process because you don't have a partner that you can lean on. So it's just important to create your own little community and your own family, which is why I also created this YouTube channel, because I didn't know the type of support that I would have and like how good it would be. So I said, well, I need to also have people who've been through this around me so they can like keep me going. And that really helped a lot too. Just reaching out to people here through my videos, I got so much like emotional support. Like some days I was feeling so crappy and like down, and I would suddenly get a comment saying like, oh, you know, keep your head up, I believe that you'll do this, you'll get pregnant, like I have faith in you. And just little things like that really helped me get through the tough times. And then having people in my real life that are close to me being supportive also helped me stay positive and just get through rough patches. Any suggestions in what to look for when choosing fertility clinics, doctors, and sperm banks? So I'll try to find the link that I used, but a family member of mine who had been through fertility treatments with her husband shared with me a link where I could look up different fertility clinics and their success rates. So definitely I'll try to remember to share that down below. But if I don't remember, just like send me a message. And I think that in choosing doctors, I definitely did my research. So first of all, I want to say that I went to a midwife's appointment for just a regular like checkup pap smear situation. And so she said, and I shared what my intention was. And so she shared with me a doctor's reproductive endocrinologist, and it just so happens that this doctor, it was like stars lined up, but this doctor happened to have clinics not only on Long Island but also in Brooklyn, literally a 5-minute walk away from my office. So, but that wasn't why I chose them. That was the appeal, but that is not why I chose them. Then I started researching that office and specific doctors in that office and looked up reviews. You can Google them. There's so many things out there. And it turns out like not everyone working in that office was great based on like previous reviews, but the doctor that actually worked with me got glowing reviews, with the exception of like 1 or 2 people that were like annoyed with like their lack of success. But generally, overwhelmingly so, like he had positive reviews. So I definitely think a combination of speaking to your OB, or not OB, your gynecologist, speaking to perhaps people who've been through it, that you know, even if they're in a couple, but like speaking to people who've maybe gone through fertility treatments themselves to get some advice about like which doctors they preferred, and then just meeting with them. You get a vibe right away whether or not you're comfortable with somebody. You may have to go to a few clinics before you find one that really works for you. I just got really lucky that on the first go, I found a clinic that worked well for me. So in terms of sperm banks, so once I started going to that doctor, my reproductive endocrinologist in Brooklyn, once I started seeing him, the first visit, they gave me a list of sperm banks. And so I started looking through them. It can be hard for a lot of them. If you're not a member, you can't fully see like the entire profile. But generally, I'm trying to think. I'll link them down again. They'll be down below. But I remember because it worked for me, Seattle Sperm Bank. But I had like 3 sperm banks that I looked at and felt comfortable with. So for me, choosing a sperm bank had to do with like the cost. I definitely did not want to spend. I think the California Cryobank is like the most expensive. I think I remember it being like $1,000 or something, like 9 to 1,000. And I was like, oh, hell no. Hell no. So, and just seeing, looking them up as well. Like, the internet is your best friend sometimes. Not in all situations, but definitely with doing research about this. Like, do review searches for the sperm banks. Also, you have to be comfortable with the price. Check out the shipping costs, because sometimes the price is good, but then you look at shipping and it's like, whew, that's really expensive. So do your research that way. But I'll link the sites and things that I used. And if you're interested, if you're in the New York City area, I can also share who my doctor was with you. What are some go-to sources of information on single mother by choice? So my number one go-to, once I made the decision to actively become a single mother by choice, was YouTube. To be honest, I came to YouTube. I started doing my research. I didn't find a lot of people that I connected with initially, but then I found a couple of people like Arlette, like Boston Girl TV, and I started, especially women of color. There wasn't a lot of representation outside of those two, but now I know there are a lot more people, and I'll try to link their channels down below as well. But there are a lot more people now trying to become single mothers by choice, or if they're in a couple. Oftentimes you find like couples going through this process, whether it's a lesbian couple or, a heterosexual couple, but it's hard to find like people of color, I think, doing this on their own. So that's another reason I chose to start this channel. I'm like, I want there to be more representation of women who are single trying to become pregnant and who are of color, So definitely YouTube was my go-to resource. And generally people do reach out to you. So I remember the first person I reached out to was Boston Girl TV, and she immediately, I think I contacted her through Twitter or something, and she immediately was like very responsive, answered like so many questions, and like I could have talked to her for hours. So reaching out to people, I know when people reach out to me, I definitely try to keep in touch and like email and so on. So, reach out to people online, and they can give you pointers about what they did and lead you down certain roads, or just tell you about things you never thought of before. The next question comes from simply.tanika. She's also a single mother by choice, or trying to be. And so her question is, what are your birthing plans as far as support and assistance? So as you may know, I really, really wanted to use a midwife for, my care while I was pregnant. Unfortunately, because of my elevated BMI and my advanced maternal age, I was referred to a high-risk OB. And so that was disappointing. But now, as far as support goes and my birth plan goes, definitely my mother will be there. And like I've mentioned in a previous video, I intend on using a doula. So I'm not sure if I'll be using a private doula or if I'll be using the one offered to me by the hospital. So like the hospital I use, they have doulas on call. Because I do want to try to, if I can, if everything goes according to my plan, and we know plans are meant to be broken, but if all goes well, I would like to labor at home for as long as possible, and I feel like a doula can help me kind of decide when it's time to hit the road, when it's time to head to the hospital, and give me tips on how to just labor longer at home. So I'm not sure how that's going to go. I think I'll decide that later on in my pregnancy, because so far so good. I haven't had any physical issues. Blood work's been coming back fine. I'm not diabetic. There are no signs of preeclampsia yet. So I kind of, if at all, who knows? I'm not going to put that in the universe. But, I'm just, so far so good. So if I'm going to be, if later on they're deciding like you need a C-section, you can still have a doula actually there. But, at that point I probably would use like the doula at the hospital versus having a private private doula come to the hospital with me. So, but definitely my mom, and then perhaps a doula for assistance. And definitely I have my high-risk OB. I don't know how I feel about her yet. She's very like, I don't know, maybe if you've been pregnant and had an OB, like, is it supposed to be like quick in and out? Because that's how I feel. And I'm like, if I'm high risk, like, shouldn't you be spending a little more time with me, kind of checking in with me? But I guess because I'm okay so far, like nothing is going wrong. Baby's, thank God, like healthy, good heartbeat, progressing well.
Stepping out, it's Friday night. How I'm longing for this day. Yes, I'm single, oh, we won't